Hey, this is Brian Hurtt. I'm the artist on the Six Gun, and you are listening to 11 O'Clock Comics.
Something's very different, Jason.
It's like a void, like as if like Galactus has already eaten the planet that's supposed to be in orbit.
Keeping it in the zone. That's nice. Considering Doom came out today, that's even doubly nice. Yes.
Yes, sir. Yes, our now. I mean, jokes aside, I miss a fair amount of episodes over the course of the year. But our faithful compatriot King Dap almost never misses an episode. You rarely do, but like you do go like on like 2 family vacations each year, so you'll miss like 2 episodes a year. But Dap, I mean, he must miss maybe once every 3 years he misses an episode. I mean, it's probably, we could count on our hands in the 16 years how many episodes he's missed, right?
I would say you're correct. Yeah.
So he will be gone for the next 2 episodes, actually.
Right. Double down. And we are so glad that you're here with us this week, because this is 11 O'Clock Comics, episode 924. And I'm Vince B.
And I'm Drake Sinclair.
It seems so weird to have no one say, you are Vince B. You're not Drake Sinclair. You're Jason Wood, everybody. And who do we have waiting in the wings?
Who do we have? Who's here?
Hi guys, how you doing? Woohoo! It's how it goes.
Oh no!
Oh boy!
Oh,
he's gonna be so mad. I have never. This is Mario, by the way. Hi guys.
What's up?
I have never done an episode of this show where David wasn't on.
That's because he never misses an episode. Yeah, that's. I quite often am not on the episodes where we have a guest, because the guest usually is filling in for me. So you have been on several. You've been on several times over the years in my stead.
Yes.
Many times you've been on. Yeah.
Yes, that's true. Yes. I think you and Fleece were on. Was it you and Fleece, or who you were? Or you and Zach? You were on not too long ago. Who were you on with?
I've been on with Zach before. I think more than once with Zach.
Yeah.
Yeah, we like to corral the big brains on one show.
True.
Yeah.
You and Zach.
No.
Zach makes my head hurt, though. He's so like he's morphed into like this super academic. So I feel like I actually have to like study to understand what he's saying.
Yeah, it suits him.
He's got those like elbow pads on his jacket.
Dude, it's so funny. That's exactly how I picture him now. I picture him in a tweed jacket with the elbow pads and a pipe and a monocle. Yeah.
And his zipper down. You want that A? And please, we have to tell everybody who's made this possible. It is cheapgraphicnovels.com. Cheapgraphicnovels.com. Omnibus editions, trade paperbacks, manga, collected editions, art books, all that stuff at a fraction of the cover price. And there's a little secret that you probably already know, but I'll tell the people in the cheap seats again. Order from cheapgraphicnovels.com. You will get an email confirmation. Reply to that email confirmation saying 11 O'Clock Comics sent me, and Max will give you free shipping on your next order. So you're saving a whole bunch on the books you bought. Now you're getting free shipping on the next order on top of additional savings from the cover price. It's magic. It's crazy. Just do it. cheapgraphicnovels.com. Just buy more comics. The money you save, you can buy another something. That's how it works. Nobody actually puts the savings in their pocket. They just buy more comics.
This is true.
Yeah.
This is true. You know, how many years have we, as a fandom, complained about ever-increasing prices, and yet we all still seem to get more book than we can read?
It's ridiculous. I'm trying to curb that problem, though.
You are.
I am. Yeah. Tell
me how you're trying to curb that. How are you trying to curb that problem? Because I have this problem, and I could use a little counseling, Vince.
Well, my friend, it's very difficult, because what you have to do is you have to, and I'm saying this knowing full well of your run of Amazing Spider-Man, right? You have to stop buying single issues. As much as I love the single issue, as much as I enjoy going to the shop on Wednesday, the trick to buying just what you love and having more than enough time to read it is to buy collected editions. That's the only way to do it. If you keep going to the shop and you're like, oh yeah, give me all that Ghost Machine stuff. I want all the Spawn. I want these Marvel books. Like, so you leave with a stack, and inevitably what you're going to do is you're going to do the shuffle, right? I want to read this first. I want to put this in the middle. I'll get to that later.
Oh yeah.
Right? You don't have that problem with trade paperbacks and collected editions and all that stuff. You just buy what you think you would like to read, and you're fine. Like, because my pull list was ridiculously long. And on top of all that, you save even more money because then you don't have to buy Mylar bags and acid-free boards. Right?
Yeah, we've had this conversation too many times to relitigate, but it baffles me that you put everything that you own in Mylars.
Well, I am an archivist, and I don't putting comics in polypropylene is cruel and unusual punishment.
I know we've had this conversation so many times.
Right. And I know there's no significant blah, 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 blah.
I have comics that are now bagged and boarded in my house for 30 years, and they look brand new. But.
Oh, they look brand new in the bag. Take the book out of the bag, slide the board out, and hold that bag up to the light. You're going to see a tint on the inside of that bag from where the binders in that plastic leach the color off. I'm telling you, I've seen it. I've witnessed it.
I hope whoever I end up selling these to or my family sells them to when I die doesn't go through that process of holding up to the light.
Right. Then you're good. You just sell it on eBay and then you wait till they pull it out.
Yeah.
And half the people send them back. But whatever.
You know, for as long as I've known Mario, though, I realize that because normally, like I said, when he's on the show, I'm not. Because you like, I don't know your general reading habits these days because although you are a member of the Slack, theoretically, you almost never appear in there, and we rarely chat about comics like, you know, maybe every now and then like, oh, that was good, but how much do you read and buy these days?
It's less than it used to be, definitely. I'm going to say I get maybe 25 single issues a month.
Okay.
And then, you know, various trades and graphic novels on top of that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's way down from what it used to be. I mean, I think that, you know, COVID really cut back on my comic book reading, which just seems weird because you're home during all that time.
I was going to say the whole rest of the planet went the other way, but that's
yeah. I moved away from. I just moved away from it. I started actually reading more prose books.
Same.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, it's because so much stuff is piled up, I am trying to be more conservative when I go through that previews and being like, why am I ordering this? I haven't read the last 15 issues of this. You know, it's in a stack.
Right. Yep.
And I think the immersion is deeper when you sit down with a collected edition. The duration of the reading experience is longer, right? You're not doing that 10, 15 minute reach for the next book, right? And I think it's just a more robust experience. You're in this world for whatever, an hour, 2 hours, however long it takes you to read the actual book. And I'm not shitting on singles. I love singles.
You do.
But there's a point where you have to realize I'm gaining nothing by buying these every month. In fact, it's costing me more. So, and again, we always get into the discussion of, well, if you don't buy the singles, then you may not eventually get a collected edition because sales will plummet. And I mean, if everyone thinks likewise, I don't know. I for right now, I think to wean myself off that the stack experience, I'm just going trade paperbacks, with one exception.
What's the exception?
On
Savage Dragon.
Savage Dragon.
Oh.
Okay.
Yeah, because he does. Right, but not lately. It has been 4 issues in 4 months. Because he doesn't reprint the letter section, and I get the feeling from reading the Eric's letters that I'm actually sitting there listening to he and fans converse, and it's fun. I like that. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I've completely rewired my brain over the years to where I find reading things in single issues difficult now. And it wasn't an intentional thing. You know, I don't think I set out with purpose to say, oh, I don't want to read in single issues anymore, because that was obviously a huge part of the draw of us being in love with this medium in the first place. But yeah, like you said, I think it's just my attention span is such that I found over the years that, like, so often I would read a few issues of a series that I'm enjoying, and then go back to it, like Mario was saying, it builds up, and then have to like reread the issues because I don't remember what I read already.
Right.
You know, and so yeah, I generally do try and just do big chunks. I mean, well, we know we have a bit of I have a hybrid model now because of the show, and because we often do get review copies and stuff. Like, I will frequently read the first issue of almost everything that comes out, pretty much.
Sure.
Or at least anything we want to talk about or may be interested in. And then if I enjoy that, I generally will then just let the arc build up and then read the arc.
Right.
You know.
Speaking of collected editions, I have a little eensy-teensy bone to pick with you.
With me?
Yeah. And DAP to an extent. Because...
Oh, fuck, I'm glad I'm here for this.
Nice,
Okay.
because the both of you talked on a number of episodes about the Enfield Gang Massacre.
Yes.
Written by Chris Condon, illustrated by Jacob Phillips. And you both gushed over it, rightly so. I think it's an exceptional series. But you never, I don't think, not to my recollection anyway, you never mentioned the text pieces in the back of every issue.
That would be because you know me well enough to know that I didn't read them.
Now, see, this is to your detriment, because in the last at least 2 pages of every issue, there's a faux investigation by a writer who is working for the Texas Record. There's even a date, issue 86, July 1996. And what he does is he's breaking down the mystique and the mystery of the Enfield Gang Massacre. Like, it doesn't sound right. They were unjustly accused. They didn't follow through. The Texas Ranger, Aloysius Eli, railroaded them. He was a bloodthirsty, fearmonger. And what the writer does is he goes through every character in the narrative proper and fleshes them out a bit more. Like, there was a journal found by Linton Quayle West that kind of gave evidence to maybe the actual mythology of the massacre was incorrect. And then they found journals by John Mowbray, the guy who kind of instigated the whole thing anyway, who had someone murder the bank teller. And they blamed it naturally on Enfield and his gang. You get a lot more information on Rose, the woman with the knives, who went by the alias Pretty Poison. Like, there's information in these text pieces that deepen and widen the narrative in the story. It's kind of like, I mean, if you've read Providence, right? Robert Black's journals in the back of Providence, there's information in those journals that is not present in the narrative. So when you read both of them, it just, you have this greater appreciation and deeper understanding of what's going on in the story. And I was like, why didn't they mention this? This is so important. But I think maybe if you go, and it's not a quick read. If you read the sequentials and then you jump into the prose in the back, each issue will take you about a half an hour to read. And I think that is value added for me, because I love to not have to just, next, pull another one next. Like, the trade paperback is a really rewarding experience because of I mean, it's a great story, beautifully illustrated and written, but the text pieces in the back are awesome. And they printed it on super shitty newsprint, which I think is a story like this, an Old West not a heist, but like a massacre story, should be printed on, it's like toothy, it's not shitty newsprint, but it's not too far from that. I mean, it's a thicker, toothier paper, holds the color really well, but it smells like old comics. It feels like old comics. And I just thought this trade paperback is just amazing. There's an additional 6-page train heist story that's included in the trade paperback that I don't believe was in the single issues. So it was cheap. It was like $17 for the 6-issue miniseries collected. Like, that's crazy. Plus, we get a discount. We're not paying $17 for it. We're paying like $11, $12.
Yep.
Yeah. So it's
yeah.
Yeah, it's great. And I love the series. I thought it was wonderful, disturbing and extremely violent, and not a whole lot of light in the story, but the fact that the truth was uncovered in the back pages made the front matter all the more rewarding. I think it's great.
Yeah, man, I feel like the comic gods listened to our soliloquy and pleas a while back when we were saying we really wish there were more good Western comics out there, because we've gotten a few.
Yeah,
since
and Scotty's doing one now.
Scotty's doing one. We got what you just talked about. We got I can't think of the name right now, but that one that was with the one with the snakes was in the name.
Above Snakes.
Above Snakes. Yeah, I love that. 2
words that were actually used in the Enfield Gang Massacre series.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So it's a thing.
Yes, and you know what's coming back in a year from now, Vince?
Don't know.
The Sixth Gun.
Oh, nice. I still haven't read all of that.
Which is why I was Drake Sinclair, because I back a lot of Kickstarters. It comes and goes. Sometimes I'm like, I'm out on these because it's, I could get a discount through Diamond or through DCPS or through Cheap Graphic Novels. The whole thing. It's like, why am I? But then sometimes then I'm like, oh no, then I'm back into it because I'm like, well, I got to support my booze and these projects are great. I want to see them come to life. Long story short, I backed, like many people, I backed the Sixth Gun Kickstarter a few months back, and it was for the Sixth Gun Deluxe Omnibus Library Collection. And they crushed it. And I say I mean Cullen, Bunn, and Brian Hurtt, who are the co-creators of the book. It is, and I just received it maybe 3 weeks ago. It finally came. It was fulfilled. But this thing is majestic. It is 4 slip-cased hardcovers. The slipcases are very reminiscent of the Hellboy Library Edition kind of setup. Each of the books has silver foil stamping on the covers, and they are, for those that maybe had the general omnibuses, because these were, when the Sixth Gun was popular in its initial run, they did put out these omnibuses, which I think you could probably still buy on Amazon, or somewhere. But these are our deluxe versions, so there's more back matter, interview pieces, extra pieces. There's like cover art. There's variant cover art like from Chris Somney and stuff. But to your point, and you took the words out of my mouth. The book ran for 60 issues, and it was one of those books where like we were all super into it as it was coming out. I mean, it was a hot book. And then I feel like it just, for some inexplicable reason, it kind of petered out. And I don't ever remember not finishing it because I started to dislike it. It just probably, fell by the wayside, and for other things, the new hotness. And I never got around to finishing the series. So now that I've got it back, I read the first volume this week. It's collects the first 3 arcs, so it's like 17 issues, I think, of the series. And again, this was a 60-issue series. But for those that don't know, because believe it or not, this thing started in 2010, which is hard to believe. Time flies. So it basically started shortly after we started this show. if it's a Western. It's set in the 1880s, and it's a supernatural Western story. It revolves around this series of guns. There's 6 of them, hence the name of the book, and they each have a power that they imbue. So like one is like almost like a cannon. The bullets like cannons. One gives the holder eternal life and makes them impervious to harm. They each have their own thing. Like one shoots fire, so forth. And they all were created by the devil, by Satan.
My man.
So yeah, your man. And this book starts with that premise, where basically the daughter. There's a man who yields the 6th gun, and he took the gun away from the leader of this a former Confederate general named General Hume. He kills General Hume, takes his gun, and puts the gun away in hiding for decades, because the gun is tantamount to evil incarnate. And we pick up at the point where the widow of the general has amassed a fortune and has hired the Pinkertons to track down a bunch of supernatural artifacts, including this 6th gun, which, when they come upon the person who procured it, they do manage to kill him. But before they can get the gun, he hands the case that holds the gun to his stepdaughter named Becky Moncrief. But she, because curiosity kills the cat, opens the case, sees the gun, picks it up, and starts shooting. And the gun bonds to her to the point where no matter what, they can't take the gun away from her. And all the while, this guy Drake Sinclair, who's this kind of ne'er-do-well, you've seen the archetype a lot in different Westerns. He's clearly has a checkered past. People fear him. A lot of people hate him. So clearly he's done bad things in his past. But at the point where we pick up the story, he's a bit of a protagonist. He's kind of like he's a reformed bad guy trying to do good for once. But he's still pretty morally ambiguous. He gets involved with her, and they quickly become a tandem. And we find out that he's got history with General Hume and this crew that used to run around with these guns. And in fact, he was meant to be the wielder of one of the guns, but walked away. And so he's got beef with them. So Becky and Sinclair, and then a bunch of other cast of characters that we come to meet over the course of the book, who end up forming kind of their own crew, their own posse, are adversaries to General Hume, who's back from the dead as a supernatural, he's not a zombie per se, but like, an undead sentient person who's wielding the dark arts to reaffirm, and adventures ensue. And I have to say, like I said, I remember really enjoying the book. I don't remember why I didn't finish it. And I was curious, backing this, whether I would be re-engaged or not, especially since I did read a big chunk of it. And I got to tell you, I thought it was fucking great rereading it. I mean, I think Brian Hurtt's art holds up super well. And to the point where I know he's done a few things since this book, but I don't know that I can think offhand what he's done.
Midnight Show.
Oh, fucking there you go. Okay, yeah, duh. Okay, thank you. Yeah, that makes okay. Because I was going to say, like, his art's incredible. It's truly incredible, and I'm just super stoked. And they're doing all this. I mean, obviously they're doing it in part because I'm sure it made them a ton of money, but they're doing it now because they are relaunching the 6th gun in 2025 for the 15th anniversary, called The 6th Gun Reborn, and it will be out by Oni. In about 6-7 months. So, or no, I guess what, 9-10 months. But
yeah,
so I'm on board. It's tough because we have to read so much for the show and just out of other things. But I really am, while the momentum is here, going to try and read these other omnibus and get to the point where I stopped reading. Because as far as I can tell, I was looking at the list of the arcs. I think I pretty much have read through the first 3 of the omnibus. So I probably have like 12 to 14 issues left to get through, and I'm looking forward to it. It's a super great, fun series, and I think, like I said, it holds up. So anybody that missed it in its first go around, and you hear us talking about Western comics, this is terrific. And we're longtime fans of Cullen's work. Obviously, Brian Hurtt, like you said, he just did Midnight Show, which was your favorite miniseries of last year, and I adored it as well. And so I think this is dope, and like I said, it's a fantasy Western, so it scratches multiple itches.
Maybe he'll have a couple of them.
I remember reading.
No, just to say, maybe he'll have a couple of them at Heroes, because I don't have this, and I want to get it.
Yeah, I don't. Oh, Cullen. Yeah, I don't think Brian's actually going to be at Heroes.
No, Cullen.
Cullen, maybe. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I remember reading it originally. I think I have maybe the first 2 or 3 trades.
Yeah.
In the comic room, but like you said, I just fell off. So this Kickstarter, is it? You said it was 4 slipcase hardcovers.
Yeah.
And is it like one slipcase with 4 hardcovers in it, or is it an individual slipcase?
No, it's 4 slipcase. Each one is its own slipcase.
Okay.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it's pretty hot.
That's some high end stuff.
The version that I backed was a $350 version.
Oh, yeah. Well, worth it. Yeah.
So, I mean, just to be clear, but there were cheaper versions. This was like the high end one, like
nice.
So yes, yeah. and it comes with a piece of art as well. So
yeah, I have something incredibly stupid related to the 6-gun that I always felt was a missed opportunity, because Bunn and Hurtt, the names both end in double consonants. I always thought they should have called it the 6th gun with 2 ends.
Aha.
Would have been kind of cool, but again, doesn't make any sense. Mario.
Yeah.
What's grabbing your gherkin?
Well, I've been reading a couple of things recently. I was chatting with Jason yesterday about something I started reading, and then I was thinking about talking a bit on the show. But I got probably 2 chapters into the trade, and I was just like, no, this is awful. I'm not going to talk about this at all. So I'm not going to talk about that. But what I did read recently was, and I don't know if either of you guys have talked about this before. Vince, you might be the one to have talked about it. Have you read or talked about Dementia 21?
I don't have it, actually. That's the Shintaro Kago book, right?
Correct.
Yes, I don't have it.
Yes. Okay. So I purchased, I don't know when I got this, probably in the last 6 months, maybe. Fantagraphics put out a slipcase 2-volume collection of the Dementia 21. So, I had heard about it, so I just grabbed it because it looked like a nice package.
That's what she said.
Yeah, that's what she always says. So over the last, couple of weeks, I've been picking away at the first volume, and this is a really interesting book. I don't know if you guys know anything about this Dementia 21 at all.
I mean, just that it's supposed to be like super out there, like manga, right? Like it's like very like existential, right?
Well, I mean, in a way, yeah. So like, it's essentially a bunch of little 16 Shintaro Kago, I think that's probably how you maybe say his name. He's in that family of like weird horror kind of manga creators, right? Like
Ito, like
yeah, like he's not really body horror like I would say Ito is, but he's what do they call it? What do they call it?
Well, I respectfully have to disagree that he's not body horror, because some of his shit just eviscerates the human form, slices it up into sections, pulls it apart, body parts like twisted and bent and tied together, and yeah, he's very much body horror.
Okay, all right. Well, I would say that maybe not this collection. This story is not so much body horror, but it's interesting. It's it's a bunch of 16-page stories. It follows this female Yuki Sakai, who is like a sweet young peppy ingenue, and she works. What she does is she's like a home health nurse, and she works for a company that they go around and they take care of the elderly at their homes. And it starts out, and she's really, really good at her job. She gets it's like near future. She's really, really good at her job, and she has really high ratings. and because of this, she's going to get a bonus and a pay increase and such like that. But her coworker, Miss Ayase, who's this other aide, is very unhappy about this and really hates Yuki. So she's actually sleeping with the boss, and she talks to the boss and is like, "I hate her. I don't want her to be, number one in the company. Let's send her out to some really crappy jobs," right? So each individual story, one after another, is her going to take care of an elderly person that has some type of, whether it be supernatural or fantasy element to it, because they're sending her to like the worst of the worst, right? Haunted house, a woman who's possessed. She goes and takes care of this aging superhero who's kind of like he's really huge, so he's kind of like Ultraman, right? And then he's senile, and then all these kaiju from outer space come down, and they're like want to fight with them, but they're all really old too. So she ends up taking care of all of them. It's really weird. It's I don't know what it's saying. I don't know if it's supposed to be saying anything. Each individual story also is almost like a non sequitur. So like it might end with something that would not at all affect the next story, right?
Okay.
So like, a giant space creature lands and we don't talk about it anymore, right? It destroys the entire town.
Mm-hmm.
Or Yuki turns into a superhero because she is taking care of a famous manga artist, and everything he draws happens. So by the end, she's like, a superhero artist, a superhero, it's weird. It's wacky. It's episodic. I think it's saying something about the elderly, and I don't know what.
The elderly are old. They are old.
My understanding, I did a little bit of reading about it, and from my understanding, and this is not something I know, but there's an elderly, as there will be in the United States really soon as well, or now, there is an elderly issue in Japan, and the fact that there is a huge number of people who are, getting old enough that they need care, and there has been a declining birth rate over the years. So there's way less young people to take care of the old people.
Right.
Right. I think we'll see that. We see that here in healthcare right now as well. Right. All the boomers are, going to suck the healthcare dry. Right. The health system.
And a very pertinent issue in Japan, which has had an aging population for a long time. It's amazing.
Yeah. So I don't know if I lose something there in the translation that, I'm not in Japan, so it doesn't affect me as much. But it's a really fascinating, it's not a continuous story. It's I would say it's a good bathroom read, right?
Nice, yeah.
It's something you can read 16, 17 pages for a story.
Mm-hmm.
And you could read them out of order if you wanted to, because once they set up that initial idea that she's out taking care of these problem cases, nothing, as far as I know, I haven't read the second volume yet, but nothing comes back to really bring back in the overarching narrative of the coworker who hates her.
Mm-hmm.
It's ridiculous. There's a lot of tropes in it. Like there's an episode, there's an issue. Like I said, it's like superheroes. She's taking care of an old, so there's superheroes in this world. There's a story where she's taking care of this. There's a story where she's taking care of this person, and they're hooked up to all these wires that are running through this entire building. and she's like an IT person. She's following all the wires, like they're all like bundles of wires throughout the entire building, and she actually ends up like killing somebody because she unplugs their life support. But
so she's
like,
good.
She's and she has this little handheld device, and she's like, "Give me a good review." Like they have to like input the review on the device. But it's they're non sequiturs. They have no bearing on the next story. It's really. I think as far as the art goes, I think the art is fantastic.
He is.
I think it's the shining part, and especially he will. Seems like a lot of time his final page will either be just one or two very large images, or just typically one large image, and it's there that I think that his art really, really shines. These massive, like a giant collection of old people that are formed into one gigantic body walking across the city.
His work's very intricate. Especially if you follow him on the socials, he will mangle school girl around high school age girls, like they're like I said, he'll do like an exploded diagram of their body parts, like the eyes pulled out and you can see the tendrils going into the skull, or the jaws extended and all the teeth are coming out. He's very, very precise and very intricate, but he's got a beautiful line, I think.
Yeah,
it's clean.
There's a certain absolutely. It's a very clean line.
Yeah,
and there's a part of it that feels like kind of like a surrealism or like a Dada.
Yeah,
mm-hmm.
yeah.
Like there's a lot of that to it.
Yeah. I used to think that if I moved away from a piece of art and I didn't quite understand what was going on, much like yourself with this book, like it's about old people, but I don't know what it's saying, right? I've developed a coping mechanism, and it may be just a technique that I employed to make myself feel less stupid, but sometimes a feeling or like an overall malaise or something produced within the story is enough for me to connect with it. Like, I don't have to know explicitly what's being said, but if the story just imparts some kind of an overall feeling regarding specific things, then I'm just like, okay, I guess the change in mood was the whole point of the story. And
that's definitely there. Almost like an indie, like a 1990s indies comic creator, like a Chester Brown or something.
Right.
Like the story doesn't necessarily matter, but it makes you feel a certain way.
Right. And that's enough for me.
Yeah. It is not necessarily something that I would like want to sit down and just read like a graphic novel, because it is not one cohesive, consistent like story.
Right.
And reading each one over and over again could feel probably repetitive. And you might get bored with it, but like one here, one there, you read some other stuff in between, and you go back and read another one. Yeah. It is very much that type of story.
Yeah, that's how I feel a lot with like the collections of like comic strips. It's like you read some and it's great, but I don't want to sit there and read the whole collection of comic strips all in a row. It feels repetitive.
Yeah, but it's fun because it's got old lady monsters and that self-replicate themselves, and exploding heads and giant aliens, and it's fun. I definitely I'm looking forward to reading the next volume, but I think that like I read this one, I will read it in little pieces. Right?
Nice. I have something specifically for Jason.
Oh shit!
It's a quickie. It's very fast. It's from a publisher that is the standard bearer for the pulp genre.
Mm-hmm.
Pulp's not dead, Jason.
Mm.
It is alive and well at Moonstone.
Yeah, it's a Moonstone book.
I really like this publisher. Not only because they refuse to relinquish the spirit of the pulps, but they have a stable of characters that have always spoken to me. Green Hornet, Jason. Airboy, Lone Ranger. I don't want to say that one because that's what I'm going to talk about. Captain Midnight, right? Lots and lots of great characters that, while they may have faded from popular culture at large, they still mean stuff to a bunch of diehards like myself. And I recently placed an order at Moonstone, got my books, and I said, this one I'm going to talk about because it features a character I love. And Jason will appreciate it. I hope. It's called Moonstone Triple Threat for May of 24. And what they do, they have these double shot books featuring 2 characters. They have the Triple Threat book featuring 3 characters, and they're prose stories. Each book is I think the double shots are like 60 pages. The triple threats are maybe 70, 80 pages. So there's 3 stories in this book written by Robert Jeskonik. I hope I pronounced that correctly. Captain Midnight in The Traitor of the Midnight Mesa, in which Captain Midnight switches bodies with his arch rival Ivan Shark. You have a story featuring Reika. It's called The Assassin. She's the assassin. It's The Flight of the Black Coach. But the best story, and the one that I really loved and wanted to bring it to the show, is featuring Kolchak. My man, Carl Kolchak.
The Night Stalker.
Yes. This is called...
Are these new stories or are these old stories?
No, completely new.
Okay.
Yes. The story features a young lady named Ivy, who may just be Carl Kolchak's granddaughter. And she uses a stolen time machine to project her consciousness back 100 years to the bicentennial. And she needs to learn the truth about and potentially thwart an invasion by the alien Orgas. These are like jellyfish-like beings that overran humanity on July 4th, 1976, which was a very dark day in human history. And the majority of people in the future believe that the invasion was facilitated by none other than Carl Kolchak.
Ooh.
Yes. And I don't want to give too much away because it's a short story. It's like 39 whatever pages. Mm-hmm. Ivy pops in right as Kolchak's facing off against this pissed off Orga. And he's all tentacles and spikes and this cyclopean eye. And when they get pissed off or when their moods change, they're like alien mood rings. Their bellies radiate color. And so she warps in during this battle, and she's awestruck because Kolchak can perceive her. Right? There's a dead man in a dumpster. There's a black business card. And, of course, there's an unraveling mystery for Carl to piece together with a little help from the future. And I'll leave the rest to the reader because it is super fun stuff in a bite-sized chunk. Doesn't break the bank. The double shots are like $5.99. The triple threats are $7.99. And you get an hour, maybe 2 hours of enjoyment out of it. And I love these things. Mm-hmm. There's a Green Hornet Kolchak team up. There's like 2 of them. And I have one on deck. It is written by Martin Powell. It's Kolchak, the Night Stalker, in the Mothman Requiem. And this is a novella in which Kolchak, I'm assuming, investigates the Point Pleasant Mothman mystery.
That's my state monster.
That's what I'm saying.
That's true.
That's why I said it. Yeah.
Now, how's the art? Because when I see these smaller publishers, I worry that the art is going to be rough.
It's shit, Jason. It's absolute shit.
No, these are prose, so there's no art. Yeah, these are prose books. But Moonstone does publish...
Oh, wait, they're prose books?
Yes. But
we do a comics podcast.
Yes,
right?
I know, but Moonstone publishes comics as well. They have plenty of Kolchak comics and comics from other characters, Green Hornet, Airboy, all that stuff. You can get that at Moonstone. So you can either, like we were talking, Mario and myself are grown-up people, and we like to read prose. So
Oh, boy.
you can you can get your prose from Moonstone, and you can get your comics. They used to be in the previews. I don't believe I've seen them in there.
I have not seen Moonstone in there for a long
For a
time.
while,
I'm
yeah.
surprised they still exist.
Oh yeah, they're going strong. You can order right from their website, and it's all print on demand stuff. It's of that quality. They're nice glossy covers, but basically the guts is just prose on these books. So it's a win. You can fly away to a different world for $6.
If you can't get me to read pulp comics, do you really think you're going to read a pulp prose book? I mean, come on.
Well, some of us are lost causes.
Now, I did want to ask you, though, all kidding aside, because you are such a pulp fan, why haven't you been checking out, or if you have been, why haven't you mentioned it, the Sean Gordon Murphy Zorro book?
Because I was going to wait till Dap came back to talk about it. I read it.
Well, I mean, it's been coming out for months. It's not like
it just finished. Yeah, issue 4.
Just finished. Okay.
Yeah, issue 4 just came out. I wanted to talk about the whole thing. Yeah, aside from the cover price, I thought it was great.
What's the?
Because I would actually read
$4.99.
that because it's Sean Murphy. I mean, that would get me to try it out.
And it's a mixture of classic Zorro and contemporary spin on the character. So he's updating it for the current audience, but the old school feel is still there. And it's sexy, and there's a lot of action, and it's everything you want from Sean Gordon Murphy. I thought it was very well done. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, my guy knows how to draw. I mean,
of course he does. The only negative thing I could say about it, other than the cover price, is that it was too short. I would have liked a 6-issue series, but whatever. I'm glad for what we got.
Nice. All right.
Yeah.
There you go. Mario, what are your thoughts on the Eisners? Care, don't care, passively interested?
I usually don't care overall. I like to see people I know get recognition, obviously. Yeah. The only thing I usually care about is I just want to see what what's nominated for best graphic novel, and maybe like best like collection, like foreign material reprinted or something like that, so that I can be like, I don't have this. Do I want to research it, and do I want to read this? Yeah,
that's exactly what I do. Yeah.
But yeah,
I asked because the Eisner Awards nominations came out today. They did. Vince is like, oh, I can't believe we're talking about the Eisners. Vince hates the Eisners.
Loves awards. He loves awards.
He fucking hates the Eisners.
Yeah, the Eisners are my pulps. To you.
The thing is, but you can appreciate like that when our boos get nominated.
Of course, I love it. Yeah. But I think you drape too much importance on.
Here we go.
I think you do. I do know what to say. Like I don't need a roadmap to read.
He summed it up in a way that is that I believe that even with the volume and depth and breadth of what we consume in each year, there are always things that we don't consume that I missed that are amazing. And there has never been a year where at the end of the year when I go and I look at these best of lists and I compile them, when I go and I pick up the stuff that looks interesting to me from the lists that I hadn't read before, there's never been a year where I'm not grateful for that process, because a lot of the things I end up reading in that month window are some of the best things I read each year. So, like, it's 100% worth it for me. But, I mean, I understand it's not your thing. But I did want to, I mean, especially, I did, given the time, I want to just bring it up, because we did have some, as is often the case, but we had some nominations of stuff from our boos. And starting off, and she's an honorary boo, because it's not like we like party with her, but she's been on the show a bunch, and I think she's fond of us and we of her. This is the year of Kelly Thompson. Kelly Thompson is all over these nominations. She had 4 different comics nominated, Vince. Like, that's
impressive. Yeah, it's impressive.
Yeah. Birds of Prey is nominated for Best New Series, which Best Continuing Series. Sorry, so Best Continuing Series. The Cull is nominated for Best Limited Series. Black Cloak is nominated for Best New Series. And then the one that I was really surprised by, honestly, is It's Jeff is nominated for Best Comedy.
That's that shark thing?
Yeah, Jeff, the Marvel, the land shark. And then, but then, and most impressively, because one would think if you have 4 different books that are nominated for their categories, she is, of course, nominated for Best Writer. So I actually sent her a little congratulatory email today telling her that we're rooting for her. D-Dubs, of course, who is quickly becoming an Eisner favorite, is nominated for Best Writer Artist again this year for Transformers, and Transformers is nominated in its own right. But the Best Writer Artist category is Murderer's Row this year. It's D-Dub, Zoe Thorogood for Hack Slash Back to School, Tilly Walden for Clementine.
Yeah, wow.
Emily Carroll for A Guest in the House, and then Bill Griffith for 3 Rocks, which I haven't read, and Mokuren for The Summer Hikaru Died by Young Press, which I have also not read, so I can't speak to either of those. But the 4 that I am familiar with are all incredible. So, and then of course it would be totally remiss of me not to give the big tip of the cap to another Best New Series nominee, a little book called Local Man by the incomparable Tim Seeley and some other dude that he's pulling up by his bootstraps named Tony.
Yeah,
Fleece.
he's going to be insufferable if that wins.
I pinged him. I wished him luck. Told him congrats. He said he's obviously very excited. But it's just fun stuff. I'm with Mario. I take a look at what's on these lists, and especially if the other things nominated in a category are things that I've already read and loved, I'll be like, oh, okay. Well, I mean, I certainly think that, if I've loved 4 of the 6 nominees and I've read them and thought they're all great, then I'm going to be like, oh, I should check out online what 5 and 6 are about and see if it's something that piques my interest. And frankly, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes when I look at the nominees after I see them, they don't appeal. Like, I'm just like, okay, that's probably not something, even if it's of high quality, it's going to vibe with me, right? But yeah, and the other interesting tidbit, and I mentioned this in the Slack today, the DC has freaking 4 of the 5 books nominated for Best Book, which I have to think is like super, like I can't remember that ever happening before. So I mean, that's, again, make of it what you will, but like Best Continuing Series, the nominees are Birds of Prey, Nightwing, Shazam, which really surprises me because I think of the 3 books that Mark Waid and Dan Mora did last year, I think Shazam is far and away the worst one, but nevertheless, that got nominated. Transformers is the only non-DC book, and then Wonder Woman, which is very much deserving in my opinion. So, but what a, I mean, that's one an astounding achievement for DC. I mean, no Image books and no Marvel books, which Marvel's hurting, dude. Marvel is nowhere to be found in these lists. I mean, like you have to,
because they suck.
No, I know, but you have to really. I mean, like, it is crazy. Like, there is I mean, I'm sure there are Marvel things, but like I can't think of seeing a Marvel project in any of the major categories this year. It's pretty remarkable.
I think Incredible Hulk should be in there somewhere.
Oh yeah, I am reading Incredible Hulk, and I still like Incredible Hulk.
Fair enough. It's not on there. I mean, I'm not saying you're wrong.
Right.
It's not in. Yeah.
Jason, I have not read a this might be the first year in a long time I have not read a single one of these best graphic novels. I'm trying to, because the best graphic novel, Album New. Yeah.
You know what? Okay, well, so I've read. The list is Ashes by Alvaro Ortiz, which is a foreign import. Mm-hmm. Eden 2, which is a Fanta book, and it's actually, to your point, I feel like I read almost everything Fantagraphics puts out, but I have not read that. Parasocial by Alex DeCampi and Erica Henderson, and bluntly speaking, that's one of them where I looked at it and thought, well, it's on here, but I'm probably not going to look at it because I have yet to read an Alex DeCampi book that I've enjoyed. That doesn't mean this isn't great. It's a pretty big hurdle for me at this point because I literally have not enjoyed a single thing that I've read from them. Roaming, which was the darling of last year. I do that meta list where I look at all the best of lists. Roaming was number 1 or 2 in terms. It was nominated on I think 18 or 20. I don't have the list handy, but it was. It was and I honestly, and I love the Tamakis. A lot of people call them the Tamaki sisters, which is wrong. They're cousins. But Mariko and Julian are cousins. I've loved everything they've done together, so I thought I would adore this, and I bluntly didn't care for it. I thought it was pretty boring. That's one where I really was head scratching because I'm like, I don't know, this is universally beloved, but I didn't get it. And then the 5th one is A Guest in the House, which I adore, by Emily Carroll. I think that's great. So for me, that's the one I would expect to win because I think it's awesome, but I haven't read 3 of the 5, so yeah.
As expected, I read none of those.
You didn't read Guest in the House? Oh, you haven't? Because you guys just read the other Emily Carroll book, and I told you that you should read Guest in the House because
yes, I read the one, the Silver Sprocket one. With the vampire.
Okay. Yeah, Guest in the House is, I think, her best yet. I mean, it's also her latest. She's continuing to evolve, but you would enjoy that for sure. I mean, it's because I
like her work.
You like her work, and this is a horror book, and I think it's got a really fun. Pretty nifty twist. It's just very much a Twilight Zone, Black Mirror type of a twist, which I thought was cool. That's great, like I said, but I haven't, like I said, I don't see myself reading Parasocial, and I probably will look at Ashes and Eden 2, and check them out and see if it looks appealing. I mean, Fantagraphics is an easy sell for me, so when a Fanta book gets nominated for Best Graphic Album, that's pretty much a guarantee that I'm going to give that a shot. Yeah. But you're right, it's. And the weirdest one for me of all the categories this year was Best Anthology, because if you go back, faithful listeners, to our 11 O'Clockers episode where we talk about our favorites of 2023, we all talked about how it was a banner year for anthologies, and we each of us voted for a different favorite, although we all enjoyed the others that each picked. And if I'm not mistaken, we had the most anthologies nominated by our audience this year, than we've ever had individually. We had a couple dozen different anthologies, so it was an incredible year for anthologies. And somehow, even with all of that, the 6 that are nominated here were not on any of our ballots or the listeners' ballots. So I guess it further cements what a phenomenal time it is right now for anthologies. But I wouldn't have picked these myself, but that doesn't mean they're not great. Comics for Ukraine, which is that Dunbier thing that he backed, or that he put together, Scott Dunbier. Deep Cuts, The Devil's Cut, which is the Distillery one. I think it was the first thing Distillery put out. Marvel Age 1000, The Outside, trans and non-binary comics, and then Swan Songs, which is Maxwell Prince and others. You read that, right, Vince?
I did, yes.
Yeah. So that's the only one of these I think. I feel like I may have read The Devil's Cut, but the fact that I can't remember if I read it tells me that I probably wouldn't have voted for it. So, anyway.
There you go. Interesting stuff.
Yeah, I know you don't love it, but it's never to talk about the Eisners.
It's a curiosity, yeah. And you love it, so we indulge. And
one other thing. I did. Sorry, I have my note here. I also did want to send a shout out to David Harper, because fellow podcaster, I think does the best interview podcast in comics, and I'll call it Off Panel. We've mentioned it before, and he was nominated for an Eisner this year for best publication for Sketched, which is his website. So pretty cool stuff. I mean, I know I'd be pretty fucking stoked if we got nominated for an Eisner. So,
but they don't usually nominate podcasts.
No, they don't. But I'm just saying, but I, again, he's a buddy and a fellow podcaster, so I thought that was pretty neat.
It's ironic that in the digital age, print is preferable to, at least digital print is preferable to audio, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. But whatever. It is what it is, right? And indulge yourselves by checking out our sponsor, cheapgraphicnovels.com, where they have a multitude of things, many of which Jason probably just mentioned, for far less than the cover price. Order, reply, 11 o'clock comics sent me, free shipping on your next order. cheapgraphicnovels.com. And check out our Patreon page. Like the twice weekly episodes. It's been retooled a little bit. Lots of fun. 2 tiers, easy to digest. You can jump into the Slack, meet a whole bunch of people, make some friends, talk about comics, and a mess of other things. So, patreon.com/11 o'clock comics. I have something that I believe is the first issue of a 5-week event. I'm not sure.
What?
Yes, but it's not Marvel and it's not DC. Oddly enough, it is written, illustrated, and lettered by Steve Rude. Rude the Dude, with color art by Glenn Whitmore. It's called Nexus, Volume 2, The Newspaper Strips, number 1. And it's only...
This is a new book?
Yes, and it's only $1.
Where did you get this?
I ordered it from where we get comics. Yeah.
What?
The entire 5-issue series costs less than the price of a regular issue after discount. Now, in Nexus Volume 2, there was a previous volume to this. This is part 2 of Volume 2. No Mike Barron. The previous story was a Barron and Rude production. This is just entirely Steve Rude. And in the previous story, there was a Galactus pastiche. There's a giant planet-eating robot known as Gourmando. Get it? He eats planet and he's a gourmand.
Love it.
He's left Elam in a shambles. And Gourmando's herald, Gnosis, had a change of heart in the battle. And he sided with Nexus and Company. And, you get the whole thing, right? So when this issue opens, Elam's a mess. There's citizens rioting and looting. Horatio is stretched to the breaking point. Sundra's not happy with her husband. Dave is on the brink of death. He was found in the remains of his ship and rushed to surgery where there was a bomb found in his chest, and Nexus removed the bomb just in the nick. And so Horatio had to put him in the nutrient tank in hopes of saving his life, but they did that to Judah many, many, many issues ago. But Judah's missing. There's this, again, Cyclopean spider alien named LARP who doesn't buy Gnosis's change of heart, and he, ill will towards the guy. There's a plucky reporter named Nipsey Conniption who is going to drag Horatio over the coals with words, and she's fighting for her life against this room of Elam's hardened undesirables. Horatio's son Harry is having nightmares just like Dad. The book is an absolute mess. It's it's full page strips, like in the vein of Prince Valiant. So you get a full page strip, and then it continues to the next. And there's a quote that Rude injects into each page. There's a next time blurb on the bottom. It's very old school. But the reason why I say it's a mess, it's complete chaos, which beautifully illustrates the state of Elam as we're jumping into the story. It's a shambles. Gourmando destroyed most of the planet, and the citizenry are using that as an opportunity to just wreak havoc. You get 20 pages of art and story, plus back matter. There's process pages. There's a page of Bill Wist's Out There strip. You have letters pages and more for $1 cover price. And my takeaway, I've always loved Steve Rude. So this is a wonderful reminder of just how amazing he is. Does he write as good?
$1.
And $1. Does he write as
for $1?
I don't think he writes as good as Mike Barron, but so what? I mean, I didn't notice Spawn level sentence mangling or punctuation gaffes. Like, the man can write, and he admits, he's like, I'm learning more all the time as I'm doing this. So my big takeaway was, it's so good to have Steve Rude back in rotation that this 5-week thing or whatever it is food for my soul. And I hope he sticks around. I hope he keeps producing these things, because it was a joy. It was an absolute joy to read.
Nice. I love to hear that, actually.
Yeah.
I was like only mildly aware that this was a thing until I saw it on your list.
Yes.
Yeah, I didn't even see it. Who published it?
Rude Dude Productions. It's his own.
Yeah, it's
little
his
thing.
own thing, right? Yeah.
Okay.
I'm on his email mailing list, and I must have skimmed that and saw that mentioned of it, but I did, yeah.
There's a collection, a number of collections for the previous story, one of which is reasonably priced. There's a hardcover oversized edition that is like stupid priced. So you can pick your flavor to read the previous story that leads into this, but you really don't have to. All you need to know is a character like Galactus came to Elam, fucked it up. His herald changed sides, and that's where we pick up this story. Yeah.
Nice.
It's great.
It sounds really good. Yeah, I mean, I love Nexus, as you know.
Yeah, well, I mean, I told you about this, and you're like, nah, son. So, I mean, when this was solicited, I told you. Because I asked Dap if he ordered it, and then
here's the thing.
You're like,
The reason I poo-pooed is because strips are a hard sell for me.
It's just like a page, though. It's not really, I mean, there's no rigid panel borders. It's most of it. It's just a free-flowing, single-page progression of the story. It's wonderful.
I get you.
Yeah. Just read it. You'll love it.
Yeah, no, it sounds good. I'm legitimately going to check it out. So in your travels, two things. One, we actually just a few weeks ago shouted out these fine gentlemen for an episode they had on their podcast. And I'm doing it again because our boy Tony Esmond and his co-hosts are on a goddamn epic roll with the people they're getting on their show. Do you know who they had on this week?
Who?
Jeff Smith. The man, the myth, the legend. And Jeff Smith. The guy does not do many podcasts. And it was actually neat because I was listening to the episode. And one of the reasons he said to them on the show that he did the show is because he loves they're like, he says they are like the podcast equivalent of an indie comic because they're not on some big platform. They just do their own thing. Just do, and I was like, well, that's awesome. That's absolutely awesome. But, yeah. And they had a wonderful chat with him. I mean, he's one of those people where, and Tony makes mention of this in the postscript that basically they had to ask him like two questions, and then Jeff's just a consummate storyteller and goes on these long, interesting anecdotes from his history of making Bone and all that. So it was wonderful. I mean, I'm a massive Jeff Smith fan, in particular Bone. So it was pretty neat to hear him so excited to be on a show, and especially at one of our buddies' shows. So check that out. It's episode 463. You can find it on awesomecomics.podbean.com or go for the Awesome Comics podcast on any podcatcher. If you're listening to one comics podcast, it should be this one. If you have time for a second, it should be certainly consider Awesome Comics. And then I'm doing this for In Your Travels because I'm a little torn by it. And I'm gonna, before I talk about what the book is, I'm gonna ask you guys, and I'm sure the answer is yes, but maybe because I'm putting you on the spot, you won't have a quick thought on it. But have you ever, and this doesn't necessarily have to just be comics, maybe it's most common in music as I'm thinking through it, but have you ever come across a situation where you love a creator or creators, and enough that you generally will check out everything they're doing, but you get to a point where you start feeling like they don't have another act? Like it's the same thing over and over again.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
And I bring that up because, again, I think it's fair to say I am an unabashed fan of Victor Santos. I love his art. I own a lot of his art. I've gotten a lot of other people to buy his art. Polar, I will fucks with Polar till the end of days. I think it's amazing. And Victor, to his credit, has done a bunch of his own stuff in recent years. I have been, I think, fairly critical of his last few projects that he's also written because he's not a native English speaker. And there has literally been issues with Lost in Translation where the English in the comic is broken. And it's frustrating because his art is so good. And to me, it's a really easy fix, right? I mean, I don't like, it would not be hard to get someone who's a native English speaker to translate these books. I mean, these are not 500-page graphic novels, but anyway. But I do love his art, and I love him as a human being enough that I will continue to pick up his stuff. And he just released a new one shot. It's three or like basically 60, 70 pages or so, called Ginger's Revenge, and it is the good news here is you can get the book for free if you want. Although I would recommend that you pay something for it, because it is available on Marcos Martin and I'm trying to think of it. What's the name of the
Panel Syndicate?
Thank you. I couldn't think of it. Then it's on Panel Syndicate. Panel Syndicate. So you basically, the way that works for those that haven't heard us talk about it before, you go to panelsyndicate.com. There are digital comics there by great creators. You can spend as much as you want to access the issue. So you can literally access the issue for free by pledging $0, which is kind of shitty because they obviously put their heart and soul into these books. But you can, if you're for whatever reason, or you can, give whatever you think is fair. So I gave $5 for this to try it out. But the reason I'm longer winded than I intended, but the issue I have with this is that I got done reading. I thought, this is the same thing Victor always writes and draws. Like, it is literally like every one of his stories is about a person on a revenge quest. It's every single story he's ever done. And
is there a femme fatale?
She is a femme fatale, Ginger. She is the spurned daughter of a very bad man who killed her mother, and she's now old enough and badass enough that she's coming for his hide. And I literally think you could, like, if you just swap the protagonist out and describe, like, that's every one of Victor's books. Like, it's literally, so it's like,
that's fair.
Yeah, the setting may be different.
I mean,
but
I think that's a lot of creators. Like, even Neil Gaiman, if you really break it down,
right?
Neil Gaiman is essentially writing about supernatural people who are at the end of their career.
Right, or Greg Rucka is the super badass woman, taking out, taking on the patriarchy. No, you're 100% right, and that's why I say, like, I'm kind of, that's why I wanted to do it in your travels in this sense mix, because I felt it was worth the $5 because I love Victor's art, and like Victor draws badass action scenes, like he draws, and so it's another book of a protagonist killing lots of people until she gets to the final boss. Like, and I'm here for that. Like, visually, it was awesome. But like the narrative and the structure, I'm like, man, like he could have just put out an anthology where it's a bunch of short stories about different protagonists trying to kill the person that they feel they owe a blood debt to, right? Like, so it's, so again, I can't tell you that I think this is like going to end up on my Aquasca's palette, because it just felt very familiar and not necessarily the best way, but it was visually stunning. And in as much as we live in a world where comics are really expensive these days, you can definitely try this out for, a relatively inexpensive price if you see fit. So there you have it.
Nice.
You doing your travels?
We're doing In Your Travels now? Yeah, I'll do an In Your Travels. Vince, I don't know if you've talked about this or not, but have you talked about You Will Own Nothing and You Will Be Happy?
What?
You Will Own Nothing and You Will Be Happy?
No.
Do you not want me to talk about it?
No, I mean, I haven't read it, but I want to hear about it.
Okay, yeah. So I just read the second issue of You Will Know Nothing and You Will Be Happy by Simon Hanselmann, which is his, I believe it's going to be 12 issues of Meg and Moog and Al and all of your favorite Simon Hanselmann characters in a zombie apocalypse.
Now, these are the self-published things that he does through his site?
Yes.
That's why I haven't read them, because
there's 2 issues out so far, and you can go buy them now. The first one sold out like immediately, but there's a second printing, and I think they're still available. The second issue is still available, but it's Meg and Moog and Al, and there's zombies. It's like a
They're
genre
zombies,
switch.
or they're in a zombie world?
No, they're in a zombie world. All
Got
of a sudden, zombies take over. It's a genre switch for them. It's a lot of fun. I mean, it's a lot of fun because, if you know Meg and Moog and Al, they're worthless. They're worthless people, essentially.
Yes, they are. Yes.
They are so much like so many of my friends. They are, like druggy stoners. They are unemployed. They are bohemians.
My kind of people.
They are bohemians. They are slackers, as Jason loves. They are people I love to hang out with. They are artists.
It's a miracle we're friends, but it's fascinating.
But the second issue, it's a zombie apocalypse, and how you would think they would react to it if you know anything about Meg and Moog. They are freaking out. In the second issue, you have the stereotypical run-in with the white male nationalists who are gun lovers, who preppers who come and take all their food, and they're driving a Tesla Cybertruck, which I love.
That's funny. All right, that's funny. I got to give him credit for that. That's funny.
Yes. But classic Meg and Moog. They're looking for drugs. They're looking for food. They're fighting off zombies. Meg's having a breakdown. Starts her period. It's fantastic. I love his books. They're and Vince, I know you love them as well.
I do. Yes.
But there's just something about them that I have that inner slacker that still exists, right? The existence of a family makes that inner slacker go away, right? But that slacker bohemian artist is still, at the base of my soul. So reading comics like this, and Simon Hanselmann, I think, is one of those people as well.
That's interesting.
And I think Vince is the same way.
I was going to say, Vince, would you say that's a fair assessment of one of the reasons you like him too?
%. Yes.
Yeah. See, that's real interesting because I've never heard it brought down, and that would explain why I don't have the appeal to it because I don't think I've ever identified that way. Like I've always, from a very young age, I was like, well, I'm going to be a capitalist. Like that's what I'm going to be.
Right. Yes. You're very you're very capitalist.
You're
very yes.
I see very little rationality in anything that goes on outside my window in this world. So
correct. Me too.
Right. To see these characters just confirm the fact that everything's stupid, nothing makes sense. Why should we engage in this bullshit? I never had the courage to do that, but it's nice to read stories of characters that.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
Yeah.
Yes, I am burdened with responsibility. So
same.
I am not these people because my parents raised me a certain way.
Yes.
But I could see, but I sympathize with those people, and I could see myself in there's a different universe where I am those people.
Right.
Interesting.
One of the reasons I haven't read this is the novelty of spending $12 on a single issue just because just because
pages, man.
Right, just because it came from Simon. This stuff is eventually going to be collected at Fantagraphics, so I can just wait. But I have a stack.
You can.
Yeah, I have a stack of his books, and I was like, oh man, indie self-published. Hanselmann touched this. He rubbed his balls on it, and I'm like, I'm paying too much for this.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I tell you what. There's only two artists. There's only two people right now that I am supporting in that manner, and it's this book from Simon, and then it's Cobra from FIFA.
Well, right,
that's fair.
Yeah,
that's fair. Did you pick up
I
Fife's new the how to make comics book?
The new Making Cobra book?
Yeah.
No.
I'm hoping
you?
He has it at Heroes.
Oh, he 100% will.
Yeah, we'll get that there.
We'll get it signed. Take a pic.
Yeah, I was
Are
actually
you
thinking the
guys
same
ready?
thing.
Are you guys fucking ready for Heroes?
Now, we'll talk
I'm-
about that next episode.
I am
All right,
so
that's fair.
excited.
Good. Keep
But
that thought.
before you sign off, though, because he brought up the Cybertruck, like, I know we'll probably never see it, but it makes me think, like, that Musk has, like, multiple insanely awesome, like, end of world shelters built. Like, he does. Like a dude with that much money that's he's got some crazy, like, underground bunkers that are like gigantic mansions, like bat caves and shit. I would love to see those.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
The roaches will get him.
That'd be cool.
Just like in Creepshow. All right, everybody. Thanks for listening to this. Please stick around because in a couple days you're going to get another one. And thanks to Mario for helping us out.
Thanks, fellas.
Get yourselves to comic shops, buy some books, talk about them, come online, talk about them with your people you love. Hopefully us, right? And take us out, boys.
Yeah, peace and love. We love you. We'll be back next week.
Yeah, eat some chicken grease.
It's like Dap is here.
That's it for that one.